First things first, this is going to be a very long video. And quite honestly, it is long because I'm not sure everyone out there is watching or reading Project 2025. Because quite honestly, people are not seeing what the Republican Party is trying to do. Not just get Donald Trump back in power permanently, but to completely and radically change this country to the point where no one feels safe unless you're wearing one of those MAGA red hats. Now, what you're going to see is an interview from MSNBC News with Kevin Roberts, the president of the Heritage Foundation, trying to explain away his plans for Project 2025. And quite honestly, this should scare a lot of you. Now, again, this is going to be a long video, and I'm going to interject here or there with my comments and the facts and the truth of what Project 2025 is trying to do, what guys like this Roberts is trying to do here. Let's begin.
President Trump is going to make decisions about policy in his administration if he wins. Project 2025 is something that's going to transcend the next 4 years, the next 10 years. It really is, for the first time in the history of the conservative movement, the apparatus for policy and personnel. That's the most important thing to remember.
I have one follow-up. It's just that you have said that this plan is about institutionalizing Trumpism. So, because I also know you all, not just the president of the Heritage Foundation, you're also president of the Heritage Action, which is the political action committee. And so, is it tied to Trump or not?
I said the context for that comment to the New York Times was that the work of the Heritage Foundation was to institutionalize Trumpism. Trumpism as a new version of conservatism, a conservatism that recognizes that by every objective measure, the United States is weaker in 2024 than it was in 1984. We also happen to think that's reversible, by the way. We're ultimately optimists. And by institutionalizing Trumpism, what we're saying is that even though we are known as Ronald Reagan's think tank, I'm a son of the Reagan Revolution, I'm very proud of that, that's 40 years ago, and we need to understand what time it is in America. And right now, Donald Trump, whether someone likes it or not, I happen to like it, is the standard bearer for conservatism.
So your plan is to implement Trumpism in this country if Donald Trump is reelected, per your plans for 2025, Project 2025, Trumpism. We tried that in 2016 through 2021. And what did we get? A country that was split right down the middle under Donald Trump's leadership. Class-wise, job-wise, race-wise, all of it. We didn't see any unity in this country because of Trump. He widened the gap on everything. He made things 10 times worse than they had to be. All culminating with 2020, the year of hell. The COVID-19 pandemic, in which Donald Trump completely bungled, which resulted in the deaths of millions of Americans. The riots in the 2020 summer, which were actually perpetrated by people on the right wing trying to somehow bloody up Black Lives Matter after the exposure of the George Floyd tapes. That whole thing is on you, all of it leading to the 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol because Donald Trump lost the election. You guys think you may call yourselves the Heritage Foundation, but all you are a bunch of power-hungry nut jobs, pissy about the fact that someone else is president, that you want to keep a stranglehold by any means necessary in order to regain power. And in this segment, you're going to use Donald Trump as your figurehead for this? He has got to be the worst person in the world to try to emulate on this particular case. You gotta be kidding me, right? Trump? And you think this is going to win you back the White House and win you control of the country like a bunch of evil, Dr. Evil type villains out there. Oh boy. This is not going to be fun.
Michael, what time is it?
Well, I don't think it's time for Trumpism in that regard, because one of the things that, as a lifelong follower and participant in Heritage, having spoken at various times there in the roles that I've played in the party, I see this as a dramatic shift away from those Reagan-esque principles when you have someone like Trump who has advocated some of the things he has. But before we get to that, I want to get to the nub of this, because you can't really do anything until you remove what has been identified as the problem, and that is 50,000 federal employees. Axios noted, quote, the massive headhunting quest aims to recruit 20,000 people to serve in the next administration as a down payment on 4,000 presidential appointments plus potential replacements for as many as 50,000 federal workers who are policy adjacent, as Trumpers put it. Policy adjacent to what? I mean, you're talking about people who've been in federal government. My daddy was a federal government employee, so I would be really appalled thinking that he could be on someone's chopping block because they think he is part of some deep state effort. Talk to us about what that looks like. If Heritage is calling for removing 50,000 federal employees, who are you replacing them with?
The number
and where do they come from? I mean, even if it's not 50,000, if it's 10,000, if it's 2,000, where are they coming from, and who are you replacing them with? Because I suspect a lot of those people you're talking about have been in the federal service for a long time and have served not just Republican administrations, but also Democratic administrations, et cetera.
They have, and 95% of them who give political contributions give them to the Democratic Party. I reject out of hand, Michael, that somehow
you're going to fire someone because they wrote a check to a Democratic candidate?
No, we're going to fire someone, and the number needs to be more than 50,000, considering that there are more than 2 million federal employees, because over the last century, the radical left has seen the administrative state as the fourth branch of government. They're unelected bureaucrats. Nothing against your dad, obviously, as a human being. You know that about me and Heritage. But ultimately, we have to devolve power from the imperial city of Washington back to the people.
But you would fire my dad because he wrote a check to a Democratic candidate without any appreciation or understanding where his political allegiance
we
or
will dramatically reform agencies that take rights away from people.
If they're doing their job, why does that matter?
They're doing their job about a mission that's misaligned. For example, the U.S. Department of Education. Thankfully, President Trump deserves credit for saying that he wants to end the Department of Education. That means that employees in that agency, even if they've been serving that mission with great competence, will have to go look for another job. What's more important than that, Michael, is that we actually have a delivery mechanism for education in this country that reflects the 21st century. So at Heritage, we see this a very different way. You want to look at it from the lens of unelected bureaucrats, most of whom, not your dad, I guess, who want to say that they are more important than the everyday American. We want to look at it from the standpoint of the everyday American and say it's time that they are put in the driver's seat rather than unelected bureaucrats.
Yeah, but they aren't going to be in the driver's seat because they aren't going to be doing the jobs. The folks you're identifying who are Trump aligned are the ones who are going to be coming in.
You are positing that those people are incompetent. And I can tell you from looking at the resumes of the 11,000 that they're very well qualified.
As much as you're thinking I'm positing these people are incompetent, you're positing that they're somehow executing a nefarious agenda.
Some of them are. Why does the Environmental Protection Agency have 350 armed agents?
If I could interject, because I did actually work for the federal government. I worked with a number, as did the chairman, and I worked with a number of those we call them civil servants in the United States government, people who are not political appointees, and they have the institutional knowledge.
If only they acted that way.
So you're planning to fire millions of people all because they're Democrats? All because they may have contributed to Democratic candidates? Is that what you're saying? And I just love the fact that this idiot didn't actually try to explain who they're replacing them with. Michael Steele asked you a question. Who are you going to replace these people you're going to fire? You say it's more than 50,000. You just want to replace everybody. Who are you going to replace them with? Remember, I read Project 2025. You can skirt around this issue all you want, or at least you can try to skirt around the issue. But we know who you're trying to replace them with. You're trying to replace them with Trump loyalists, a bunch of yes men. You want to replace our government, the people who are supposed to be working for us, with people who will only work for Donald Trump. Make no mistake about what your plan is. I don't even think you know what the plan is. Do you have a copy of the plan on the desk right there in front of you? Or are you trying to BS your way out of everything that we already know? There's a quote from one of my favorite movies about World War II, well, post-World War II, Nuremberg, about the Nuremberg trials. Hermann Goering once said, "All the yes men are still alive, the no men are 6 feet under." Is that your philosophy? Is that what you're trying to do? Build a bunch of yes men so you can put the no men 6 feet under?
Well, I think Alicia has a question along those lines about one of the policy priorities that you all have identified in Project 2025.
I actually, Dr. Roberts, have a question about this upcoming election. Is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 presidential election?
I believe that Dr. Roberts can't hear. So Alicia just asked, is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 election, regardless of the outcome?
Yes, if there isn't massive fraud like there was in 2020.
What does that mean?
If there isn't massive fraud.
Do you believe that there was not massive fraud?
There was massive fraud. We have an election fraud database that has documented that over years. By the way, the Heritage Foundation has been concerned about election integrity for decades, not just about 2020. We've been documenting this problem for a very long time. And if one of the
I believe, according to the Heritage Foundation, sir, by your count, Heritage Foundation has done an investigation, and according to your count, there have been 1,513 proven instances of voter fraud across the United States since 1982.
Yeah, that's probably
1,513.
Because they're very hard to document. And the Democrat Party is very good at fraud. The key thing here, which I think we would both agree on, is that we aspire at the Heritage Foundation to seeing a poll after this election where every American believes their vote was counted. I care as deeply about someone on the political left with whom I disagree saying that they have confidence in the outcome of the election. It seems, rather than turn this into a partisan conversation, which you do a good job of at MSNBC, we might say we aspire to something more noble, which is that every American believes their vote counts.
I mean, I don't think it's partisan to ask if you will accept the results of the election.
The only person who's made voting in elections into a partisan problem was Donald Trump. Donald Trump, after all the challenges and investigations indeed showed that Donald Trump not only lost the election, but actually showed that it was Donald Trump himself who tried to steal the election. A trial that should be going on right now in the state of Georgia. The phone call he made to this Georgia Secretary of State. After all of that, the only person who's ever made this into a partisan issue was Trump, that led all the way to January 6, 2021. And do I need to remind you what happened there? Apparently I do. On that day, Donald Trump told a mob of people to attack the United States Capitol in the vain hopes of him remaining in power. He let the attack go on for 187 minutes. And the only time he ever said anything in between those 187 minutes and that piddly-ass video address of his was the tweet saying that Mike Pence could have stolen the election from me and didn't have the courage and blah, 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 yak, 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 which was actually read aloud by the attackers during the attack. And ever since then, more and more evidence and more testimony show that Donald Trump tried to steal the 2020 election. The only person who made this into a partisan issue has been Donald Trump. Do not try to lie for him, Roberts, because we know the truth. And I just love it how you cower trying to not answer the question. The question was, will you accept the results of the 2024 election? Even if Now they should have added this part in. Even if it doesn't result in the election of Donald Trump, yes or no? Obviously, the answer for them is no. Just say so. Just say it. Trump or death. That's what you idiots said during one of his rallies, isn't it? Trump or death? Just say it. Stop being a bunch of cowards and say it. If Trump doesn't win, we're not going to accept the election. We're going to do another January 6th style attack, and it's going to get worse. Just say it.
Alicia, I don't know if can you hear Alicia now?
Yeah,
Alicia, do you have another question?
I can hear. I do have another question. I'm specifically interested as it relates, Dr. Roberts, to the deportation of immigrants in this country, just understanding sort of how it is going to work. When we talk about folks on the interior, how you see a future administration utilizing the National Guard, ICE, police forces to deport something like 11 million people.
Could you hear? Yeah. So she is asking about immigration and how you see immigration, how in this plan, how you talk about using like the National Guard to deport individuals. Like, what is the, Alicia, and do tell me if I am adequately
people on the interior specifically.
People on the interior specifically, not people in the border, people within this country.
Well, first of all, we need to close the border. And secondly, we need to have the biggest mass deportation system ever in the history of America, because it is unjust and illegal and evil that more than 10 million illegal aliens have come to this country. It's imperative that we send those people back, invite them back to come through the legal system. We love immigrants at Heritage, but we also love the rule of law.
So how do you plan to carry that out?
Well,
are you talking about going door to door? Because that's what I mean, I could read from the plan, but I think
the first thing is that there's going to be a lot of self-deportation. The interesting thing, as you no doubt know, is that simply talking about this and beginning to implement a plan, and President Trump deserves a lot of credit for talking about this, causes people to say, I don't want to run the risk of being arrested for doing something illegal. But secondly, there are great plans using the Department of Homeland Security to return these people back to south of the border. The great thing is, even a majority of people on the political left agree with this, because they see the damage that this has done.
Well, before we go,
I think we want to take a couple more minutes, and so I know we're being told to wrap, but we want to take a few more minutes.
I'll stay as long as you want.
No. Just ask you real quick. So what do these people do? What are they doing now?
Which people?
The folks, the 11 million, 20 million, whatever you want to deport.
A lot of them are committing crimes like murdering the 12-year-old girl in Houston. In fact,
so that's
very
one. That's
one
out of 11 million. What is the?
We can take the remaining time of the segment, and I can give you a lot of examples.
In Texas, undocumented immigrants were 37.1% less likely to be convicted of a crime. Undocumented immigrants, and according to a survey, University of California Riverside study, 33% less likely to be in prison as of 2021.
The young lady killed in
I'm just giving the numbers.
Well, what do you tell the parents of those people, those young girls who were killed? This is absurdity. The preponderance of these people, Michael, are male.
But what is the difference between an illegal immigrant who unfortunately engages in that activity?
And we don't like that. I want to be clear. We don't use the term illegal. So undocumented individuals.
That's sweet. They're illegal aliens.
Undocumented individuals versus anyone else who commits the same crime. Well, I mean, so what you're saying is because you have this instance of individuals behaving badly, that's a reflection of every individual in that community, and that's just not the case.
No, what is the case is that because the preponderance.
I mean, what percentage of those people, the 11 million that you want to deport?
I'll answer your question.
I just want to clarify my question. Okay. That's what I'm trying to do. What percentage of those individuals that you want to get rid of, move out of the country, actually commit crimes?
Our analysis in Texas, Georgia, and New York shows that a preponderance of the illegals who have come in are unattached male, and there are unattached males, and the disproportionate number of them are people who are not even making any attempt to be legal.
But what is that number?
Obviously,
are you
a large number
10
of them
out
have
of
committed.
1,000, or are you talking? I'm just trying to get.
Well, I just would say, and if Alicia were sitting here and you could hear her, she would say that you are weaponizing a horrific murder to smear 11 million people.
That is a laughable assertion. What Joe Biden is doing is weaponizing the entire.
And of course, one of your biggest bugaboos, immigration. The evil Mexican hordes, the evil Mexicans trying to take over the country, trying to kill everybody, trying to rape everybody. It interests me that you didn't answer the question, how exactly are you going to deport the reported maybe 11 million, according to you guys, according to the MAGA, the 11 million evil Mexicans that have come here illegally? How exactly are you going to do that? I'm wondering why, Roberts, you didn't even try to bother answering that question. You just tried to say they're going to self-deport, we're going to threaten them and all that other stuff. You're going to threaten to kill them? Is that what you're going to do? Because obviously that's what you want to do. That's a lot of what you and the MAGA want to do. But here's the thing about all of this. What exactly, if you're planning on, if your idea is to go door to door, house to house, to every house in this country, using police officers, National Guardsmen, you do realize that that's illegal, right? That flies in the face of the Constitution, unless you're planning on burning the Constitution, which obviously you really want to. But here's the thing about all of this. I just love it when the MAGA and the Republican Party just zero in on a couple of crimes, tragic though they may be, extreme in the way they may be, rapes and murders, yes. However, I can name right now, with both my hands, both sets of toes, probably all of yours who are watching this right now, about how many crimes just like the ones that you idiots in the MAGA just zero in on. But I don't hear a thing from you when it comes to a white American who does this, or a black American who does this, or a Hispanic American who does this, American citizens who do. Just 2 days ago, I got a report about a Trump-supporting firefighter who's about to go to prison for rape. I just heard a few weeks ago about a pastor in this country who's going to jail, prison for the rest of his life for molesting boys. And don't even get me started when it comes to mass shootings in this country. Do not even go there with me. None of you in the Heritage Foundation have even addressed that fact. But no, it's all the evil Mexicans. It's the evil Mexican horde. But I'm still going to ask the question, how exactly are you going to get people to be deported forcefully out of this country into their countries of origin? Are you going to go door to door? Are you going to deploy the National Guard to do so? Now his answer was, they're going to self-deport. Again, how are you going to do that? Are you going to threaten to kill them? Are you going to put an announcement everywhere to say you're going to be deported or we're going to kill you? Is that what you're going to do? Because you already know that if that happens, you're going to end up in prison, Roberts. You and the rest of your Heritage Foundation assholes, especially Donald Trump. I will make it my life mission to make that happen. Don't cross the line you don't want to cross, boy.
Before we let you go, Dr. Roberts, I do want to ask you about abortion because it is a issue that is at the top of mind for folks all over this country right now, waiting on a case from the Supreme Court, EMTALA. In Louisiana, in places all over this country, abortion care is unavailable to people that may need it. You and the organization in this plan talks about changing the Department of Health and Human Services to the Department of Life. Do you think that women in America should be able to get an abortion if that is what their doctor says they need?
Abortion's not health care. I find it really interesting, if not worse, that you wouldn't support the change of the department name to the Department of Life. I thought we were all in support of life. We believe eminently in women's rights, and particularly women's rights in the womb. And so the real question that you should be asking
I just want to know, if I may, though, because I do ask the questions here.
Why aren't we talking about the people
who are
supporting legislation that abortion can happen until 3 days after the person's born? This is an absurd framing by this network.
That is an absurd assertion. As a person with an actual womb, I'm telling you that does not happen.
So
but let me just back up.
Legislators in California, Virginia, New York, who
Dr.
actually
Roberts,
filed those bills.
Does Heritage and Project 2025 believe that a woman should be able to have an abortion if her doctor says that she needs one? This is a yes or no question.
Abortion is not health care.
So
abortion
that is
is
a
the
no?
murder of a human being.
And of course, we already know your stance on abortion. No abortions for anyone, regardless of the circumstances. Don't give a damn if a woman was raped. Don't give a damn if a woman's life may be at stake. Fuck them. That's your whole mentality on that. Fuck them. Now again, I made my stance of abortion from my point of view very clear, but apparently I'm going to have to do it again. So I'm going to try to get it as fast as I can. I'm in the middle of the road. When we're talking about some girl who has consensual sex, note the use of that word, consensual sex. Not rape, not molestation, not incest, not molestation, consensual sex. Then that's one thing. You're woman enough to get in bed, you're woman enough to raise a child, and there are other options. Surrogacy. Put the child up for adoption. Leave the child in front of a firehouse or police station. Those are legal things. But nobody in the Republican Party, I have yet to meet a single Republican, let alone a single pastor, talk about those options. I've yet to meet one Republican or one pastor or one priest that gives those options out. Now, on the other side of that, if the mother, if her life is in extreme danger, that is something else entirely different. But I don't hear that from a pastor or any Republican or anyone anything in this policy, this Project 2025. This entire policy is designed to destroy what America is supposed to be about, freedom. Everything in this policy, this Project 2025 policy, will cripple what this country is supposed to be about. Everything that we covered in this interview from MSNBC, from adopting Trumpism to sending military soldiers door to door on a hunt for illegal immigrants. All of it is going to destroy what this country is about under the altar of the almighty Donald Trump. Enough is enough. I am asking you all, watch this video, share this video, because I don't know a lot of people in this country don't know about Project 2025. So now you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. One of the men, the architects of Project 2025. At this point, it's all up to you. I just gave you the information. It's up to you to decide what to do next. Choose wisely. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.